Hello guys and welcome to another part where we are going to be building our fridge. I was actually making a few parts of building the fridge by now, but this is going to be a very special part because we're no longer going to be really building that much on our fridge, because this is going to be my first video of teaching you guys scripting. Yes, I know scripting on Roblox doesn't sound like that much fun, and to be honest, yes, scripting isn't that fun to learn. It is fun to learn, but not as much as, for example, building or onions or other different things that we were talking about yesterday. But believe me, guys, once you know how to script, it will be your absolute favorite. You just have to believe me on that, alright? So let's go. So first things first, guys, I want to tell you why I was gone for a while. I just had no time to record because my school is ending very soon. And that means, of course, I couldn't make that many videos, obviously, because of school and, you know, all that exams, all that stuff, that's all like happening in the end. But once I'm going to be on summer, I will be able to upload almost daily because I'm going to be a lot of on vacation, but there are going to be way more uploads. And for now, guys, why do I want to teach you scripting? And I mean, there's so many other Roblox Studio tutorials. Why am I doing it? All of that. The reason is super simple. Roblox Studio changed so much that it's actually crazy. Scripts or tutorials that you can find in the past, they are all invalid. Let me look up an example. Okay guys, so I looked it up and yes, I was right. In some cases, some players just had weird codes, and sometimes as like a non-scripter it is really difficult to understand the code or sometimes even to copy it properly, because in scripting every single letter counts, and that's why it's so important to be able to write scripts on your own. And for example, some of you might be using ChatGPT. Of course, it's a very nice tool, but I just want to say, for more complicated scripts, ChatGPT is not going to be working good. I was actually trying it out. I was able to do it easier and better on my own than ChatGPT, and sometimes ChatGPT was just losing the line of what it has to do, and sometimes it was mixing up so many things. It was writing unnecessary lines of code or using deprecated functions and other things. What that is, I will show it actually right now to you. For example, guys, you're right now here on your Roblox profile, and if you want to know like how to find out about about deprecated Roblox functions or in general scripting information, I really recommend you going over to the create page. This will take you over here to the creator dashboard. It is actually this super handy thing, and here you want to go on documentation and overview. So what is this? This is basically the storage for all the things that were ever uploaded to Roblox Studio, and this is just like I'm using it as an information giver for anything I create. And all you have to do for that is just to click this button, search docs, and now you can browse for anything you want. For example, region 3. So this is actually a more like complicated script thing that we're going to talk about later. And as you can see, there are lots of these functions, and next to them it says deprecated, and right now I will just explain you what it means. Actually, it's already right here. Deprecated: this function has been deprecated. Use world root get parts bounds and box along with overlap parents for new work. So what that means is that this function is region 3 empty is no longer working for Roblox Studio. And if you will be trying to write a script with it, it is not going to work. And for example here, is region 3 empty with ignore list is also deprecated. Or for example, also if we're going to be talking about the region 3, there is the region 3, I think it was called white ignore list with what, yeah, there was this with white list. So this is all deprecated, and it is actually the most difficult thing for me was, while I was learning scripting on all these older tutorials, is to find out how do these new functions work, how do I use them. And as I said, I mean, ChatGPT was not able to explain it to me that properly, so I was just even about to give up, but I was actually able to find out how to use Region 3 again, how to use it again. But not only Region 3, there's so many more other things, such as ray casting. Wait a minute. Raycast, I think that was what it's called. Yes, ray value.changed, for example, is also a deprecated function. And in general, like the ray casting, it is actually a super interesting one. So this is just ray casting to some blocks and parts. As you can see, it actually looks quite interesting, as you can see in that video. So ray casting are these lasers. You use it, for example, in guns, or when you want to search for parts on a ray, and ray casting is the creating of that ray and taking a look on what parts are in its line. So yeah, ray casting is something very important, but there was lots of deprecated things about the ray casting. And once again, the older tutorials, they're all using the deprecated functions, because back then they were working, but nowadays it is no longer working. So it's sometimes problematic to learn with their tutorials. But no worries, guys, because you got me, and I want to start a brand new Roblox Studio scripting tutorial, and this time it's going to be like a super new one with the newest functions, so you will be up to date, because there aren't that many of these big tutorials, and I plan to do this brand new one. So if you haven't subscribed yet, then subscribe right now. So here we go. At first, guys, you will need all the things over here as we were using in our past videos, the Explorer and the properties. And by the way, another important thing I have to show you is if you're going to go on View, you'll be able to see all these different things. For example, the Asset Manager, Toolbox, Object Browser. What is that? And these are different tabs that you can open up for your screen. For example, the output. And the output is used to find errors that might counter during your script. Team chat, you use this if you're going to be using team create, and I will be showing you how to use team create too, because it was not even that easy for me to find some tutorials about it back in the day. And the terrain editor, as you can see, these are just all of these different tabs, and like the task scheduler, the performance, find all, replace all, the toolbox, the object browser, the asset manager. They are just way too many, so you definitely don't have to open all of them up at the same time. But if you will be needed to open one of them up, then you have to do it over the view. And yes, the Explorer and properties, you will probably be using them all the time. And for scripting, we will be using output all the time just as well. And maybe even the command bar. It is also pretty important for scripters, but for now, let's go. At first, how do you make a script? Actually, it's really simple. You go over here in your Explorer, and we will be doing the things in the server script service. So what is the server script service? It is basically the place to storage all your scripts. That means, for example, this script is going to be about how making bombs. So this script is going to be making bombs, and the other script is going to be making, or maybe no, destroying ships, for example. I just need some simple examples for script names. So yeah, this is just the place to store all these scripts, and I will tell you later why it is that important. And we also got the server storage, so this is just a storage for other of your instances. For example, you created a tool. A tool? No, not a torsion spring constraint. I meant a tool. Wait a minute. I think I can't type anymore. Here we go. The tool. And for example, this tool is going to be a sword, and we're going to be making some item giving stuff. And once again, I will explain you the difference of the server script service and the server storage later on. But for now, let's delete one of these scripts. We're going to be only working with one. So in this script, we're not going to be making bombs. Not for now. We're going to be giving out swords. So the first thing I want to learn you about in scripts are variables. So what are variables? Variables are just little lines of code, and these are just things that you give name to. For example, we're going to make a variable that is called block. So, and the block, so as you can see, we just wrote block, and it's actually showing an error, but once there's going to appear an error, don't mind it, okay? Sometimes errors are appearing, but it doesn't matter that your script is completely wrong and that you have to redo all of that. That just means that you have just unfinished your sentence and that the program doesn't like it yet. So we're going to create a part right now in our game, and we're going to rename this part to block. Pretty simple, right? And now block is going to be equal to workspace dot block. And now, how does all of that work? Let me explain you all of that right now. So the block right here, this letter block, that is just the name of a variable. You can go ahead and maybe create like parts, and you can call them whatever you want. For example, A, B, or C. And now you have 3 parts. All of them have names A, B, and C, but these are just variables. Variables are placeholders for some information. And in this case, the variable block is the placeholder for the block inside of workspace. So what is workspace? Workspace is a Roblox service that we developers use for creating our games. If you're going to collapse all of these services, then you will be able to see every single one of them. So the primary service is workspace. Inside of the workspace, you see all the different parts. Inside of the service players, there are going to be players inside. For example, me, I'm right now a player, so I'm being showed inside of players. Lightning, this is the service that is responsible for the lightning in your game. Then we get material service. This is the service responsible for materials. Actually very simple. The network client, it is just another thing for your clients. Replicated first and replicated storage are almost the same. These are just storages, I guess, for all your tools or blocks or parts, for example, that you don't want to put in the workspace immediately. The server script service and the server storage are services that are storing like scripts in the server. That means that players have no chance or any way to even access the script. Like the script is protected from anything. And the server storage just as well, it is not letting any player to get the items inside of it. You can only access them with scripts that you can put inside of the server script service, or with these white regular scripts. Now the starter GUI just contains GUIs. I will make a video on GUIs later as well. So GUIs are the things that pop up on your screen, and the starter pack is just the pack with all the tools that a player will own in the beginning of the game. The starter player is basically filled with the starter character scripts and the starter player scripts. So these are just some scripts that your character needs, for example, to walk or to play animations while walking and all that stuff. The teams, it is another, like, do you remember, for example, the game Arsenal? There we got like the team red, blue, green, and yellow. And with teams, you're actually doing that. Like you're doing, creating a team that you call for, I don't know, red. This is going to be team red. The team color is going to be red. And yeah, this is just the team service that we developers once again are using. The sound service is the service where you put sounds in. I'll explain it. It is also not that easy. I will explain it in a other video too. And the text shot service, just another service you don't have to care about. It is the service that is making the chatting in the game possible. And these services, you cannot delete them. Like, you can be trying to do whatever you want, you can be trying to delete them, but you can't, because these are the default Roblox services, and you need them to run your game. So don't worry, they will be here forever. And now, how can you access these services for your script? Well, let's begin at first. Your script doesn't know that there is like a block over here, as long as you don't make it a variable. So I made it a variable, and now my script recognizes the block under the name block. And for example, we can make our block the color red, and there is a and there are functions that I was talking about before. So what are functions? These are some actions, some more complicated actions that your script is making. For example, one of the super important, really basic and simplest functions is print. It is written just like that. Remember to write it uncapitalized, and I have this scripting assistant running. It's just a default assistant. So as you can see, once I'm writing something, it is printing out giving me possible ideas of what I want to write. And if you find out, if you know exactly what you want to write, you can just click on it or use the arrows on your keyboard to select the right thing, and then just press enter, and this is how you can type way more quick. Now, what is print doing? Let's actually make this go away at first so I can explain. Oh, wait a minute, we messed it up. How print works. So here we get the output, remember? And inside of the print, you can print out different texts, and all of this text is going to land in the output. For example, we can make the output say hello, but it is giving us an error. And do you know why? Because the print function can only be printing out strings. So how do you make a line of letters a string? All you have to do is just to set these symbols in the beginning and in the end of a word or a letter, and here we go. Now hello is a string. And once we're going to run the code, the output is going to say hello. So this is the way how we just use the print function to print out a simple thing. And you can put inside of here anything. For example, what's up? And it will always be printed out as I showed before. So yes, this is the way how you can print out just text. So you give it the text and it's just printing out the text. Simple, right? Now let's come back to the variable block. So we define the variable as block, and then we tapped in workspace. So why do we have to tap workspace? Because our script has to find the things that we need. Because as you can see, there's so many parts inside of workspace. So we are using the name of the block to make it know how it is called. Like if we would be printing out workspace and A, it would be calling block this part because it is called A. If we're going to be printing workspace B, then it is going to be thinking that this is this letter. So we have to define the exact part that we mean. In this case, we want the block, so we just type block, and here we go. My scripting assistant already found it, and here we have workspace.block. Now, why did we wrote workspace? Obviously, because there's so many services here, and our scripts just always has to search for the exact right part. That's why we have to write workspace and then .block, because our block is inside of workspace and the workspace is inside of our game. And that's the way how you can define our variable. Now, if we're going to run the script like that, it is not going to do anything else except saying what's up, because we had a function that it has to say what's up, and it said what's up. Now, if you want the script to do something, you always have to be using functions, or you'll have to use variables. So now, instead of writing workspace.block over and over again, we can just write block because we defined the variable. So now you can make a dot. And as you can see, they open lots of these things, and these are in the most of the cases properties. So you can here see that block.name, block.position, cframe, and size. And if we're going to go on block over here, then we will see all these things and the properties as well. What did we had here? Workspace dot, and for example parent, if we'll scroll down here, we'll see that the parent of block is workspace. The name of the block is obviously block. You can see it right here. The position of the block is minus 19x coordinates, 0.5 y coordinates, and minus 27.5 z coordinates. The C frame is just the same thing as position apparently. Now it's nothing. And yeah, this is just all these properties of our block. And the size, of course, the size just as well. Here we got the size 4,1, 2. So these are properties, and you can access and change the properties of our part. So we're going to create the variable size. So as you can see, it's just the same variable as block, and we will write it as size block dot size. So we just accessed the variable block. So how is it working? Our script is once again trying to find the variable size, but before it has to find the variable block. So our script is going over to the workspace, then it is looking for block. Here it got the block, and then it has to find the variable size, and the variable size inside of the block. But now our script knows already where block is at, and it is inside of workspace and then block. That means it's once again going workspace found, then block found, and then there has to be size inside of block. So now it's switching to the properties and taking a look. Here we go, the size. And this is the way how our script found both of the variables. And now you can not only define these variables and the values of them, you can just as well change them. For example, we have another where I'm going to create the variable name, and I'm going to set it to block.name. And now you can not only define variables, you can also work with them somehow. For example, you can print them out, and you can just print out name. So we're going to print out the name of the block. But there is actually a small little difference if you're going to be printing out name and if we're going to be printing out this name. You might be already noticing it. Let me actually just show it over here in the output. So at first it prints out block and then it prints out name. So what does that mean? Block is the name that we defined over here. See, in the variables. At first we went over to workspace.block and then .name, and the name of our block was block, and that's the way how our script found block. And then we told our script to print it out, and here we go, it printed it out. And then we told our script to print out the string name, and it doesn't have to find anything, because whatever you put in the string, the script already knows how to print it out. So for example, we can also print out the size. We defined it already, and the size is just another property that we can print out. So we just run our game, and here we go. At first it prints block, and here it printed out the size of our block. So if we're going to go over here on block and on size, it is just the same thing. See, 4,1, 2, and here it is 2, 4,1, 2. Now, if you were, we can not only print them out, or that means we just use the function on our properties. This is the first thing you can do, or you can change them. And here's how. As you remember, if you're working in workspace, we're, for example, just changing the size of our part. We're making it a little bit longer and higher, or we're just stretching it somehow. Our script can do just the same thing too. All we have to do is to write block, and then the property that is responsible for the size, so block.size, but we don't have to write it. Remember, we can just write size because we already defined that variable. Now we have to set it to the size we want. Now, you don't have to write the sizes or numbers inside of these things. All you can write them as usual because they're being marked as like yellow, and then you're good. Then you're actually very fine. So if you want to change the property size or position, then you'll be needed to use vector 3. So vector 3 is just a type of property, and we're using vector 3 for changing the size or the position of a part. So we're going to set vector 3.new, and what is new? That means we're creating a new vector 3, and this vector 3 is going to be assigned to the size of the part that we defined in our variable. So at first we have to define the x for our variable, and let's make this 1. Then we're going to define the y. It's going to be 1, 2, and the z's 1, 2. Now we have the size 1, 1, 1, and we will print out the size here before we change the properties and after we change the properties, so I can show you the difference. As you can see, at first it printed out to 27.5, 3.25, 15, and then it printed 1, 1, 1. So what happened was we had a variable, and this variable was set to the size of the block, and the size was 27.5. Like right now, see, the size is 27.5, 3.25, and 15. And then we told it to print it out. Then we changed size by assigning the vector 3 value, and then we told it to print it out again, but we changed it so it printed out a different thing. Now, if you want to change the actual size of it, you'll be actually needed to write all of it again. So you can actually write block, remember we defined it before, and then block.size. Okay, yeah. Now I'm running it again, and as you can see, now our block is just a little 1 times 1 times 1 block. We successfully changed its size, but as you can see, now our script printed out the same things again because our size stayed unchanged. It is still the same. The block.size is we defined the size before, and nothing changed this variable. It just stayed the same, so it printed out the exact same thing twice. I hope it is understandable yet. So now this was actually a little bit a lot for now, and I know scripting can sound very difficult, but believe me guys, I'm going to make it as good as possible. And I mean, my main goal in the end is to not only make you be able to script, because that is what a lot of developers were doing on their YouTube channels. I also want to keep you up to date to the things that are happening to Roblox Studio, because it has been updated very frequently nowadays, and I will be just teaching you to do all the most different things, even in this beginner tutorial. But of course, the building of the fridge, or just this scripting we're going to be doing here, it is all going to be pretty simple. So I think this is the script we wrote, and I just recommend you experimenting with the script. So you should define like a lot of variables. You should print out these variables. And if you think that you're actually already a very skilled guy, or if you already were learning a little bit about scripting, you can go ahead and try to even change some properties. So good luck to all developers, and goodbye.